Bismillah. Welcome back. You're still tuned into Salam Media with me, Salam Alikum, here on this beautiful Juma Friday. Really excited to be having this next interview. We'll be speaking to the Association of Muslim Professionals of South Africa, represented by Yusuf Dockrat, who'll be chatting to us about this debate that's been bubbling up about whether or not Muslims should or should not be voting. And I think, this is one of the most crucial elections in South Africa's history, 30 years into our democracy. And Yusuf is joining us via streamer just to unpack this debate that's currently ongoing. Assalamu alaikum, brother Yusuf. Juma Mubarak. Jazakallah so much for joining us here on Salam Media.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah to you and to the listeners, to all your team.
These elections are seemingly becoming one of the most important that South Africa has ever embarked on. These are seventh democratic elections, and now more than ever, there seems to be a courting of the Muslim vote. We're seeing political parties going into Muslim areas and trying to convince Muslim people to vote for them. And I think the most outstanding one was when Julius Malema was in Lenasia, and he was, telling people how a good Muslim should or should not vote. But there are underlying issues within the Ummah, within the community, about whether or not Muslims should or should not vote. How are we responding to that one?
Yeah, Jazakallah khair. May Allah guide us in all the decisions we make, firstly, Salado. So perhaps I can give you a summarized version of the position of AMPSA. You may or may not have seen the publication that AMPSA issued on the 12th of May. And in essence, we expressed the view that it is not permissible and it's certainly not appropriate for Muslims to participate in democratic elections. And we do so based on fundamental principles of Islam. So I don't wish to get into the partisan politics notion at the moment. We're just speaking general principles. And as AMPSA, we've taken the view. We have ulama, within our ranks, within our Shura Council, and we have referred in our publication to the basis for our objection, and they're really twofold. The first one is, and this is so key, brother, as Muslims in our society, one of the things we tend to focus on our individual lives and what is permissible, not permissible, and so on and so forth. But years of being ruled by other people has actually resulted in us not paying sufficient attention to the very clear ahkam, the rules of Allah on the issues of governance. We have a wealth of jurisprudence on this question. And the first issue is the sovereignty of Allah. And as we know, Allah described himself Azza wa Jal as the sovereign, the legislator. And that principle is extremely important. What it really means for us practically is what Allah has decided upon. No one has the authority to decide otherwise on. And democracies, by their very nature, generally give legislative authority to individuals. And so we have a usurpation of the sovereignty of Allah on major questions. Now, you can't wish it away. This is a fundamental flaw and pits democracy against Islam in a way that can't be reconciled. That really is the reality. And the second issue, of course, is the one of the desire for Muslims to establish the law of Allah. Now, so lest I be misunderstood, let me be clear. This is not a call to overthrow regimes and so on. We're speaking about what is the desire of every Muslim. If you take a Muslim in South Africa and you say, "Give me your perfect society," how many of us would say living under the law of Sharia? And that's the challenge that we have, and that's what I'd like every Muslim to ask. What is your dream? And if your dream is not to live under the barakah and the beauty of the Sharia, then we have failed in our duty as educators in the society. We failed in our duty as parents in the society. We failed in our duty as media people in the society. And the reason for that is because honor is from Allah, and we gain our honor from living under His rule. When we seek our honor through systems other than the system designated by Allah, we become dishonored. We may think we're achieving things, and you'll hear people speak, and we may get into this depending on your questions, brother, but later. But we may think we're achieving things by our relationships, in our context, in our so on and so forth. But if we elevate the status of disbelief above the status of Sharia, we become dishonored, and we become amongst those that we should never wish to be. So those are the two fundamental things. We can't support the usurpation and the usurping of the right of Allah, and democracies are precisely that. Secondly, we must yearn to live under the law of Allah. Those two key things must say to us as Muslims, we can't be participating in these systems that promote the very opposite of what the deen stands for. So that's the essence of that's the essence of our publication. Obviously, there are discussion points around it, and I leave it in your hands to raise that with me.
Yeah, I want to ask, one person might say, Muslims' lack of interest in participating in, the political processes, makes Muslims vulnerable to laws, policies, and politicians that may undermine Islam and the rights of Muslim people who live in a circular state, a democracy like South Africa. How would you respond to that?
There's two answers to that, brother. The first is, fear mongering is a very powerful tool, and it allows it's deeply manipulative. So if you create the fear and you go to people and you say, you know what, if you don't vote, I tell you what, your masjid is gone. Of course, you're going to get people to say, I in the name of Islam, I'm going to now vote because I want to protect my masjid. But when you do that, and those people who are doing that are being intellectually and spiritually dishonest, because at the same time, they'll say you live in the freest society in the world. So what's the issue? You don't have armies marching against you. What's the imperative? What law are you protecting Islam against? What potential? And that's where the proponents of voting actually can't say anything, because they rely on the general fears that you'd want to, that, for example, you'd find being peddled in North America and perhaps part of Europe. So there isn't that fear. And political participation, you see, if I said to you, brother, if I said to you, listen, if you're really hungry, don't worry too much about halal and haram. I'm just going to eat that pork. It's down the road. I don't want to be seen as somebody that's discriminatory. The pork farmers should be supported X, Y, and Z. Just now the pork farmers get together and say that we are unfair to them and discriminatory. You'd look at me and you'd laugh at me. You'd say to me, but there's a hukum of Allah, are you mad? Where's the necessity? Why don't we do that with something that's even more important than the issue of pork, which goes to the question on the authority of Allah? So we mustn't fall prey to created horror stories and fear mongering to push you into a specific path. And now I want to give you context, and brother, and to your listeners, please, I don't, we have strong views on these issues, and I don't mean to criticize any specific individual. My function is not to be saying anything about any specific person, party, whatever it is. Within the Ummah, we try as much as we can to correct each other where we can, but I'm not here to denounce people. But I want to give context to some of the things that we see. We must not be naive, brothers and sisters. In 2007 or therearound, a report was commissioned in North America called the Rand Commission. You would the Rand report. You would have in your journalistic endeavors, you would have encountered it from time to time. And it's a report that, in a sense, has played itself out now in the last 20 odd years. And it has governed the policy of the imperialists and the anti-Muslim and the anti-Islamic world. And a key component of that policy, and I invite readers to go and read this, is their suggestion that democracy must be made palatable to the Muslim world. One of their key objectives, and I'm going to read from the document, if you allow me, brother.
Continue. Yes.
It says, assistance programs should be organized around the sectors listed above and would include, now this is their report, official position, democratic education, particularly programs that use Islamic texts and traditions for authoritative teachings that support democratic and pluralistic values. Now, where are you living in the world today? You look all over the world and you see a convergence of disparate Muslim groups that were previously far apart, but they're all singing, and forgive me the phrase, they're singing from the same hymn sheet. The political right, the political left, the people who love rulers, the people who don't like rulers, what are they all speaking about? The compatibility of democracy with Islam. Where does this come from? It comes straight from that policy. And what do? They fund the studies at all the major universities of the world. They create their own shuyukh, and all of a sudden you've got secularly trained guys whose Arabic seems impeccable, and they start speaking about pluralism, coexistence, how everything in Islam is completely democratic. My brother, utter hogwash. This is the war against Islam. It's to dilute your belief system to a point where your Islam is no different from kufr. And if your Islam becomes no different from kufr, we got to question who we are.
And just lastly, before I let you go, the question then would be, what is the alternative? How do I, as a Muslim person, fulfill the command that every Muslim needs to be explicitly committed to social justice, and community commitment, while I'm living in a circular democratic state like South Africa?
So first thing, when we speak about the commitment to social justice, it is not justice from the prism of disbelief. It's justice from the prism of what Islam is. So when people speak broadly about social justice, what do you mean? It's such a loaded term. So to the atheist, social justice means something. To the political left, social justice means something. To the political right, but to the Muslim, it is something very, very specific. And that understanding of justice comes from Quran and Sunnah. So voting has got absolutely nothing to contributing towards social justice. In fact, to say this, brother, it is the very opposite. It perpetuates a system of corruption. And I don't mean corruption in the way in which political parties fight each other about whether they are honest or dishonest. The system is inherently corrupt because it's a system that usurps from Allah. Secondly, wherever you are as a Muslim, the value you add to your society comes from the manifestation of the deen in your life. So your sense of integrity and honesty, the way you treat insan around you, your firmness against injustice, your charity, your sadaqah, your zakah, those are the things you will do wherever you are in the world, because in al-arda lillah, you are living in the earth of Allah, you contribute. And so people mustn't conflate voting with in somehow contributing towards social justice, but absolutely nothing with it. And I want to caution them, people are saying to you, your vote counts. And I want to just express this caution to you. Yes, your vote may very well count, but it may count against you in the court of Allah. And exercise caution.
No, I think we're going to leave it there, Brother Yusuf. Jazakallah so much for giving us your time. I do have the publication here in front of me. If there are others that would like to, get hold of it, read it, find it, how do they get hold of it? Contact details.
We have a website. We have a website, but I'm embarrassed to tell you I can't remember what that's.
All right, it's I have it. I have it here. It's www.ampsa all small caps.org.za. So www.amsa.org.za. I think this is where you'll find the publication and all the information you need to know about the various issues that the Association of Muslim Professionals of South Africa are currently tackling. But jazakallah so much, brother Yusuf. We're going to let you go for now. And Juma Mubarak.
My brother, may I just end off with this? May Allah grant victory to the Mujahideen of Sham, wherever they are, Syria, Palestine. Protect the Muslims from the evil of Allah's enemies and our enemies. Barakallah fiqh, may Allah bless you.
Jazakallah. Ameen. There you have it there. Yusuf Dockrat from the Association of Muslim Professionals, just giving us, their thoughts, their insights on whether or not Muslims should be voting in the upcoming elections. That's those are their opinions in a democratic South Africa, and one that should be respected and appreciated because that's a system of democracy that it has built. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we'll take the news with Said Chedwood, Salam Media News, what you need to know, when you need to know, and how you need to know it. News coming from South Africa and all across the world, waiting for you right after this.